as a future person becoming a reading specialist in an urban school community, which I know even in Michigan there are many, what is your advice for future reading specialists?
I think one of the things you need to do is focus on the families and the children that you're working with. You need to get their literacy histories. In fact, you need to look at social equity teaching. I will send you, let me see here, I'll send you a couple handouts on that.
Okay.
I do think that you just can't go into an urban setting or any setting and unless you know something about the literacy histories of the students that you're working with.
Mm-hmm.
I have found that that is one way to connect with families because if you don't know the students' literacy histories, you might be connecting them in ways that just doesn't line up with the way they line up.
Right.
And so I do think we need to do that. And also, I did some work with the Flint Public Schools, and I've done work with Detroit Public Schools as well. And I do think that you have to make connections with the families that you're teaching. I think teachers need to go in those communities with open open minds because sometimes we go in with preconceived notions
Right, and
of the kind of
assumptions,
kids
yeah.
that we're going to do and assumptions. And I do think we have to not do that. And so that's why I wrote the book, A Path to Follow Learning to Listen to Parents, because if you don't do that, then you might be making generalizations
Right.
about students. Um, and so, like I said, if you go to a doctor and okay, if a person is training to be like a doctor, you have you have like two senior doctors and then a resident doctor, and they all sitting around the table discussing. Well, in a school, you have teachers who have been teaching for less than a year, and you got teachers who've been teaching for 30 years. And so, to me, um, um, that's what I would do. I would go in and make sure that I understand the kinds of families that I'm going to be working with.
Okay, great.
Rather than going in with a lot of assumptions, like because a child can be poor from a financial perspective, but very rich when it comes
to literature,
to other kinds of things. And so, and giving teachers some opportunity to practice,
right,
in some of the ways that they need to work on, because I mean, and then allowing, that's why that little book that I wrote, it talks about all kinds of families, which means that it will give the teacher some chance to get to know the kind of families. Because when you're going into a community, like for example, when I would go to the state of Wyoming, I'm going to learn something about that state before I go in there. And where I can make some connections with the families that I'm going to be working with. And so that's kind of what I would do. So I do think that future teachers, back in the day, people only focused in on teaching content. I do think we have to show teachers how to have an understanding of the kids that are sitting in front of them.
Yeah.
I think that's extremely important. I'm sending you a couple more handouts.
Right, because part of a role of a reading specialist, what I'm learning is, which I had an awareness of, but it's not just teaching the students how to be readers, but also guiding and providing professional development to your fellow colleagues.
That's exactly right. And you have to get to know the students that you're working
true.
because they were.
That's
We don't
true.
say that. That's why their students, that's why their patients are dying. So we're always picking on teachers all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I do think we have to not always say that. And so I found when I wrote that little book, A Path to Follow, it gave teachers information that they had so they could make those connections with the students that they
Mm.
don't normally would know anything about. What did I do here? Okay. So that's one of the things I would definitely do, and I'm sending you a couple things here.
That might be a good book to propose to teachers at the start of the year as a reading specialist. That, if you have time, read through this book, Path to Follow.
Yeah, in fact, I'm gonna have that book was published by Heinemann,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to have to ask them if they can do it. The book is sold out. You
Ah.
might be able to find it online, but I'm
Oh.
going to see if they can do some reprints of it.
Oh, okay.
That book, because I know here at Michigan State, our program has been ranked #1 in the nation for the last what I want to say 20, 30 years. But I told them, I sent you some stuff. That even though our program is ranked high, we still need to show teachers how to work with families.
Right.
Because see, back in the day when I was growing up, all of my teachers lived in my community. My mother and the elementary school principal, they went to school together. And we don't have that.
No.
And so I think when schools were integrated, people focused in, they didn't focus in on family and community connections.
Yeah.
And families have to be, people have to feel welcome, and they have to feel like you value them.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you're not gonna, we were talking about trust. By the way, that program that I did in Nelsonville worked so well. And when Dan Rather came, and by the way, I made sure that Mrs. Shaw got to be principal of the year. At the end of the school year, we still had 80% black parents, low income black parents, 20% low income white parents, 35 white teachers, 4 black teachers. But what we had would change perceptions and ideologies. Because I told the parents, when you point your finger at somebody, you got a thumb and 3 fingers pointing back at you. So I need you to turn off those crazy soap operas. I need you to work with your child at home. And so for 8 weeks, I coached the parents. I said, it's like you playing a football game. You coach, and then you got to play the game. So I told them, don't be playing with me. Because, see, some of them were trying to tell me they had read to their children. I said, no, you didn't. It's almost like you go to Weight Watchers. If you say you ate what was on that program, you're supposed to weigh less. So I said, that's why this hand that I sent you. I said, children come in school early, emergent, and fluent.
Yep.
So if you said this, then I'm supposed to see this. Then they couldn't say that.
Yeah.
But girl, I said, don't be playing with me. I said, if you can't read and the teacher's assigning colors, we're gonna read, is it red? Is it blue? These are wordless picture books. And I said, so you can have conversations with your kids. There are various people at various levels. The exercise, I'm not gonna get in high level aerobics. Can't do that. So you start with low impact. So you start wherever you are. So that's what I would be. I would say that teachers need to get to know their families. You need to do community mapping where you can go and just look at where your kids are coming from, what places they're having to walk by, meeting parents when there's no bad news to tell. I always tell teachers, there's a book that we have our students read called White Teacher by Vivian Haley, and she says, I know within the first 30 days who shall be called bright, who shall be called well behaved. And so what teachers should do is tell parents the truth and not wait until November, but lay out, like I created parent informant literacy groups around each grade level. In kindergarten, the teachers focused on sharing time. In first grade, they focused on emergent literacy because each child is different. Having parents be researchers of their own children. I do think that if you got inner city parents, a lot of these parents are working 3 and 4 jobs. You need to work with their employers to see if they can come in once a month where you can actually have some focus time with them. I think teachers need to do videos of classrooms where parents